So this was given to me by Misty at Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter when she came to Kentucky and visited all of us. All of us received a book that had some sort of connection to our name, to our channel, or just what she knew that we might have some interest in. So how she found a book called The Hucksters for Trusty Huckster Mercantile, when I still run into people and buyers and even other resellers who still don't even know what a huckster is. So it is a book about sales. I'm super excited about it. This will not be going into the fundraiser because this is mine. So
if you got a dollar, won't just lousy down. You know that I got rhythm that could suit your budget fine.
hi, this is Patrick with Trusty Huckster Mercantile, and this is First Friday's Friend Mail. I don't get a lot of friend mail, but that's okay. I don't have the following as a lot of people do, and I'm really not expecting anything, but every once in a while I do get a gift here or there from a viewer or from a colleague, another YouTuber, and decided to just kind of stockpile them together until I have enough to make a video. And so here is a collection of items that I've picked up over the last few weeks. So early on, if you watched any of my deep dives, I did a deep dive with Tim from over the years, and it was specializing on uranium glass. And I happened to make a passing comment to another reseller that runs her own channel, Parks and Vintage. I take that back. She doesn't have a YouTube channel, but she has an Etsy store called Parks and Vintage. And I had made some purchases from her during the pandemic, so that she was helping me source for my own Etsy store. And she included a uranium glass optic pattern bowl. And I offered to pay her for it. It wasn't necessary that she gifted it to me, but she wanted to help me out. She liked my deep dive. She thought this would be a nice little show and tell to actually be able to use, and we did. I included this during the deep dive with Tim. But what I had decided is, as with all of the gifts that I get, unless it's a gift that someone has actually taken the time and chosen that will go into my personal collection, I really don't need to start building any new collections. Not saying, you never say never, but uranium glass is not a collection I'm necessarily trying to build. So what I'm doing with the gifts that I'm getting, whether it's from a viewer, from a reseller, however I end up picking something up, I will be holding on to these items until the fall when I do my fundraiser for just One More Dachshund Rescue, JOMDR. .org. Anyone who's joined some of my live sales may have seen Dawn from JOMDR. She is in the chat on occasion. And I did a fundraiser for her last year prior to having live sales like this, and it was successful. It was a percentage of sales from my Etsy store of anything that was dog related. So we've decided to expand that this year, and I will dedicate one of my live sales most likely in November. And it won't just be dog related items because I don't want it to be restricted by that. But what I will do for any items that I am gifted, I will sell these during the live sale, and 100% of the proceeds will go to the charity. Some of the gifts I've received, I've been told specifically, hey, go ahead and resell it, make some money. I feel funny about that. Particularly depending on how I got some of these items, I don't really want to profit off of someone else's generosity. So I feel that this is the best of both worlds. A charity gets the profit. I get to enjoy it for a short period of time and appreciate the gift and the thought that went behind giving it to me. But then I'm passing something on to someone who will enjoy it and using their money to support a charity that I think is really important. So thank you to Parks and Vintage for the optic uranium glass bowl, and that will be definitely one of the items that goes into the JOMDR fundraiser this fall. If you watched some of my videos, you know that at the end of June, I did a pseudo meetup with some other vintage YouTubers. And during that meetup, I met George. He was prepping for a pretty major estate sale, so we were able to shop the estate sale. So I met George from the Antique Nomad, Misty from Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter, Jeffrey from Real Nifty Vintage, and Laura and Mary Beth from Fatbird Finds. We all kind of congregated into Kentucky, did the shopping at George's estate sale. We also then went off and did some other antique shops and vintage stores and thrift stores. And you can check out my channel as well as the channels of all of the other YouTubers I just mentioned. And we did an entire series of videos with items that we'd received. One of the items that I did not include in my videos or in my live haul that I did with George was a item that I picked up at George's estate sale. And it was this cover for a blender. It was in the kitchen area. The way he kind of has a house that he uses to prep and display all of his estate sale items. And I had made the decision to do some vintage kitchen items, which depending on, I think this video will post before I do the actual live sale, but I'm going to have a themed live sale specifically for vintage kitchen items. But that's not something I do a lot. If you watch my channel, you know I tend to do, pottery, porcelain, glass. I do the pretties, I do the smalls. Getting into the kitchen area is not something that I've really tried to resell before. So everyone there, including George, gave me some tips on what would sell well, what I could sell what I could sell items for, what would be good to get, what to avoid. No offense, George. And I did buy quite a few items that'll end up in that sale. And this was one of the items that George just, picked it up and said, hey, you know what? I'll put this in for free. You should be able to get a few bucks out of it. It's just kind of a fun item and it's totally kitschy. It's, I would say it's pretty much every bit of it of the 70s. It's the brown background or beige background with the brown trim. I don't think my family had these, but I could totally see having one of these. So thanks to George from the Antique Nomad, he had intended that I would put this into my kitchen, vintage kitchen sale for part of my live sale. But again, I kind of feel weird about profiting off of someone else's largesse. So this will also go into the fundraiser collection and will be part of the live sale that I do for just One More Dachshund Rescue. So thank you, George. On that same trip, we visited Lehman's in Paducah, and that happens to be owned by Laura from Fatbird Finds, Laura's mother. It is an antique and furniture store, and I actually had a blast in Lehman's. I enjoyed it. It was probably one of my favorite places to shop. It really I need to spend time with Laura's mom because she and I think, were somehow kindred spirits. Everything she had, even when she was pulling some items that weren't necessarily vintage, it just had that right look. And I just found myself wanting to pick up everything because it was all my aesthetic. So I did actually purchase a lot of items, and a lot of them did go into my live sales. Some were going on my Etsy shop. There's a whole variety. And one of the items that I picked up, I don't remember where this was because obviously it's extremely small. So I think there was a little curio cabinet that I had picked up. There was a tiny nativity set, which I've actually already sold. A piece of Tunbridge ware. I think it's called Tunbridge ware from Tunbridge Wells. I'm still researching that. But anyway, there were a lot of little pieces, and this was one of them. So I had pulled them all together. They were pricing the list, writing up my receipt, so I had a nice official record of it because I was planning to resell all these. And they got to this, and they said, we'll just throw that in. Okay. So this will take pride of place in the dog fundraiser for just One More Dachshund Rescue because this is a tiny little hound. And there is a tiny, 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 tiny little label on the side that I had to pull the loop out to see. And it actually says Walt Disney Productions. So I'm assuming this is the hound from Fox and the Hound, which, should have looked it up. Toby? Oh, I don't remember. I have not seen that movie in decades, probably. I don't think my daughter's ever seen it. But anyway, it's actually a labeled piece from Walt Disney Productions. It is tiny, but hopefully it'll bring some dollars for the fundraiser, and it's super cute. And until this goes into the fundraiser, it actually is sitting with its own pride of place in my own curio cabinet alongside the salt cellars and all the coasters that I have on display. He is sitting right on the shelf because otherwise I'm afraid he'll get lost. So Fox and the Hound comes from Fatbird Finds, courtesy of Lehman's, Paducah, Kentucky. So very happy to have that. Also on that trip, and I think I might have included this in the video, in one of the videos, but I'll include it here too because it's more representative of, friend mail. It wasn't mailed to me, but it's The Hucksters, the book. So this was given to me by Misty at Thrifter Junker Vintage Hunter when she came to Kentucky and visited all of us. All of us received a book that had some sort of connection to our name, to our channel, or just what she knew that we might have some interest in. So how she found a book called The Hucksters for Trusty Huckster Mercantile, when I still run into people and buyers and even other resellers who still don't even know what a huckster is. So it is a book about sales. I'm super excited about it. This will not be going into the fundraiser because this is mine. So I didn't know I was going to start a collection of huckster items, but I just did. So I now have The Hucksters by Frederick Wakeman, author of Shore Leave. I'm sure that was scintillating read. But regardless, so I have my own copy of The Hucksters. Super excited. This one I'm keeping. So I don't mean to dismiss any of the generosity of anybody else. So like I said, if it's something that's going to be added to my collection, I will take it for its intent, appreciate it, and I will add it to my collection or start a new one. But speaking of items that were given to me as a gift that are going to be added to my collection, this is an item from Katie at Vintage and Vinyl. She shipped this to me. And you might recognize Katie. She's in a lot of the chats on both Premiere channels for a lot of us, as well as the live sales. But Katie was my very first deep dive. So when I started the idea of the series for Trusty's Vintage Deep Dives, I went straight to Katie because she had posted a video. Her channel was very small at the time I discovered her. Literally, I think like in the teens of followers. But she was cranking out content after content, and it was all very quality content. And one of the videos she did was a tour of her typewriter ribbon tin collection. And that was just the niche-y kind of thing that I was looking for to kick off my deep dive series. So she and I did a deep dive on typewriter ribbon tins. I had to go hunting to try and find one of my own just so I would have something to show and tell during the presentation. But she had the greatest collection. And through the different discussions, and because I posted some of my own channels, she knew that I had a travel-themed collection of globes and maps and passport items and things like that of my private collection. And so this item with the Panama has the biplane flying over the Panama Isthmus with the word Panama. It already does look fantastic. I've already put it up there and I had to take it down in order to do the video. But this was added to my collection instantaneously because it's absolutely fantastic. It is a typewriter ribbon tin from Manifold Supplies, but this is something we even talked about on the show because there's some text on the side and definitely some text on the back that indicates what this is and like really does make it an advertising piece. But if you just saw this, you'd have no idea what this was. You would think it was a bar of soap or a hockey puck or something that you would not immediately think of typewriter ribbon tin. So this was where things had started shifting into, hey, these are decorative objects in and of themselves, and the whole idea of reduce, reuse, maybe not the recycle, but at least the reduce and reuse was, it existed early days, that they knew that people would get these tins for the functionality of the ribbons, but then it's a cool tin. So people would keep them, and so they ended up having these really cool designs. So this one is, again, not going into my live sale because this is going into my permanent collection. However, she did give me another typewriter tin, which I had commented on when we did the deep dive, that it was graphically probably the most attractive item that she had in her own collection. And it was taller, so she talked about this in the deep dive. I'll let you go explore my deep dive to learn why this one's so much taller than the others. But I just had commented that the idea of the black and the red, the graphics along the side, this is just so deco modern that it's beautiful. So she gifted it to me, which I am humbled by the generosity. Now, I will say, I don't think I want to start a typewriter ribbon tin collection. This does look really cool though. So this might just kind of get morphed into another collection and not really start its own typewriter. I might use it as to hold something else up. Or it might end up in the sale in November. So I'll keep you on tenterhooks that maybe I'll sell it, maybe I won't. But again, this was gifted to me. This was legitimate friend mail. This came to me unsolicited, very kind, and it is special because it is connected to the deep dive that we did. And her channel has grown significantly since then. I'd like to think maybe I had something to help do with that because people might have discovered her through my deep dive. But she's earned it all on her own because she's makes some fantastic content. She's a pleasant individual, a lot of fun in the chat. And so if you're not a subscriber of her channel, make sure you go hunt her down. Vintage and Vinyl. Her name is Katie. And sometimes her channel is a little hard to find, so I'll put the link in the notes for this show because there's a couple channels that have similar names. But anyway, so that came from her. She then also, as if that wasn't enough, she then also gifted me, additionally, a very cool box. I love boxes. But the box is from Crummel's hand-painted English enamels, which fascinates me because I love my Steinbach enamels. But this is not an enameled piece. This was a collection of international coins that, again, because of my travels, she sent me these coins she thought I might appreciate from a variety of different countries. And unfortunately, now I can't remember the countries that she mentioned. I want to say this one was South Korea. This one is another Asian country. This one might be Singapore. Anyway, I need to put my cheaters on because I'm having a problem reading. This is a real. Is that Portuguese? Brazilian real, and they speak Portuguese, so I wasn't too far off. But anyway, it was just a very cool collection of coins that I actually have. This is super nice and super generous. I have jars of international coins because I used to travel internationally as well in a previous life. And I've traveled to 35 different countries. I've traveled to 6 of the 7 continents. So I have quite a bit of currency saved up as well. So what I might actually do is probably make this collection and then maybe add some of my own coins because I certainly don't need them. There are some currencies that no longer exist because they were replaced by the euro. Maybe make those available just as kind of a fun. Maybe I'll throw some of my paper currency into it, just as a fun purchase again for the live sale for jomdr.org. So that was a nice addition, and again, completely unexpected and very much appreciated friend mail from Katie at Vintage and Vinyl. And then the most recent collection that I received, again, they're not really given as donations because people probably weren't aware of my intentions, but I was gifted these items, and this was from a new. Well, it's a relatively new channel, but it's very new to live sales. And I attended their very first live sale, Vintage Collectibles. They are on Instagram at VTG Collectibles, and that's collectibles with an I, not an A. They held their first live sale. Unfortunately, it wasn't particularly well attended. They definitely had different people come in. They definitely had multiple people, purchase from them, and they had some really good prices. But to be honest, it was so poorly attended that I didn't feel like I had to compete for a lot of items. Basically, they put something up. If I wanted it, I had a pretty good chance I was going to get it. So I actually bought quite a bit from them. I then took the next step, which I'm surprised more people don't do, because I was already paying for freight. So I took the next step and I just went into their Etsy store. No, they have an eBay store. I went into their eBay store and just started shopping there and found a couple inexpensive items and said, hey, can you add those? What would it cost? How much would it change the freight? And I purchased enough items and purchased additional items from their eBay store that they actually sent me some gifts. One of them was an item from their eBay store. So this is a salt and pepper shaker that's called Now and Then. And initially I was concerned it was a reproduction because I was thinking, maybe clearly the refrigerators are both vintage refrigerators. but that maybe this was kind of a reproduction or something that was done now to reference a then that was then also a now and then. But that is not the case. It is actually a true vintage item that is dated 1975. It's actually stamped very nicely on the bottom, 1975. And the box is in amazing condition. And then so are the salt and pepper shakers themselves. I mean, they still have the cardboard that held it together. So I don't think these were ever used, certainly. And I question whether they were even much, maybe they're taken out of the box. This one has a little bit of discoloration to it. But again, this was taken very good care of. They gave this to me for free. While I was purchasing this to sell in my vintage kitchen sale. So when they gave it to me for free, again, they put a note right in there, super kind note from Heather and Gina. Jeannie? Sorry. Gina, I think. They put a very nice note and said, please resell, and make some of your money back. Again, that wasn't what my intention had been. So I would have paid for it, but I would have earned its money back, not the rest of my purchase. So it'll go into the fundraiser. It was free to me, so I will pass it on. Whatever it sells for will go as a donation to Just One More Dachshund Rescue. The other two items they sent me, actually they sent me 3 other items, were then completely unsolicited and unknown. I mean, obviously I didn't ask for this for free, but the other items they sent were also very cute, and I think they put some thought into what they sent me because had commented. They watched my channel. They know a little bit about my daughter, the Huckster Helper. And so the items that they sent me, one was a carved wooden bowl made in Switzerland and a porcelain bird marked for Germany because they know my daughter is a German major and was supposed to be in Europe right now, but had to come home because of the current situation. So, they actually sent things that, as a gift, that they thought, they knew that we have a lot of affinity to Germany, Switzerland, Austria in this house, that they thought this would be a nice addition. And again, normally it would be, but I think this is a really nice piece that, although I could appreciate it, I don't think I really need to add it to my personal collection. I will pass this on and sell it in the fundraiser, and I think it'll bring an attractive price. That'll be a nice donation to JOMDR. So it's a really nice idea. And then the porcelain bird, it's marked Germany. There's a stamp on it, so it's a nice vintage and absolutely perfect condition. Again, a beautiful piece. I think it would look great. It'll live in the curio cabinet until the sale, but I don't necessarily need to build a collection around these. But I think it'll bring a nice price. I don't want to I don't want to just be walking down the streets and picking up garbage trying to, sell it because it's a fundraiser. I want to put really nice items into the fundraiser, and I think this will bring quite a bit of, I think this will bring a nice donation for the charity. And then the other piece they sent me was a Soviet era postcard, because I've mentioned this a couple times in passing. I don't really talk about it that much, but my minor was Russian area studies. The first time I ever traveled outside the country was to go to the Soviet Union, when, yes, it was the Soviet Union. And so somehow they actually remembered that or saw that or somehow knew that. And so they sent me the postcard that actually had the Soviet flag. Now, it is a reproduction, but that's fine. It's still, this goes into the idea of it's the thought that counts. And this would be, I probably won't end up selling this on its own, but this will be a really nice addition to an ephemera collection, which I can pull together and use specifically for the fundraiser. But the thought that they actually gave me something that, that they put the thought into giving me something that they thought that I personally would have interest in, this is going to be more meaningful to me than a postcard, a vintage Christmas postcard or a vintage Valentine postcard or whatever, which, although those might be desirable and people love those, I'm very interested in Russian history. And so the idea that this is the item that they chose for me, I think is just really cool. And again, I'm humbled by the kindness of others and their generosity. So these were from Heather and Gina, or Jeannie. Sorry, from Vintage Collectibles. And depending on when this posts, they are actually planning their first YouTube live sale, I believe at the end of July. I'm not sure if that's still on, but that's what they were aiming for. So they were trying to find room on the calendar, lovely things like that, because this live sales are getting a little bit crowded. But if you miss their sale, catch their sale, whatever, check them out. So they're on Instagram at VTG Collectibles, and then that can send you to, you can find them on their YouTube channel, etc. And I will put the link to their YouTube and everything in the notes for this post. So that's my friend mail. So again, this is just something that I really appreciate the gifts that I receive. I think it's unbelievably kind, and I do hope the givers understand and they're not offended that I'm not keeping them. But I live in a townhouse. I barely can store the stuff that I'm already selling, that I can't add everything into my personal collections. And even when I'm given permission to resell something, it just makes me feel a little weird. So, and other people do that, and that's totally fine. I'm not casting aspersions on anyone, but I just feel I have an opportunity to pass this on and do some good, pay it forward to a charitable organization that I think is really important. And so I think this is a really fun way to do it. So all of this stuff will either go into a box, or I might enjoy the looks of it in my curio cabinet for a couple of months until I do the actual sale for just One More Dachshund Rescue. But until then, thank you very much for watching. Thank you for hopefully supporting this channel. If you've gotten this far and you're not a subscriber, I really would appreciate you hitting the subscribe button. Hit the like button, throw some comments in there, whatever you like. Anything you do to interact with my channel really helps YouTube understand that I am a real channel, and I'm slowly creeping toward the 1,000 viewer mark, which is kind of their magical threshold for a real person. But until then, again, I appreciate all the support that I get, whether it is physical or just by hitting a like button, subscribing, or if you just think good wishes. I'm not picky. I appreciate you spending your time with me and putting your trust in a trusty huckster. Bye-bye.
Sure was nice to know you. Oh, maybe I'll catch you on a New York train. Oh, maybe I'll never see your face again.